Alright, so I can finally talk about the Halloween 2018 spoilers because I saw it just again today, an hour ago. And I really thought the first time I watched Halloween 2018, being such a gigantic fan of Halloween, that I really did like it a lot, but I didn't love it like the original. Like, none of the sequels I felt that way. But watching this a second time, all my little gripes that I had with watching it the first time have completely just washed away. And honestly, I fucking love this movie even more the second time. It blew me away how this one is so close to John Carpenter's movie in terms of like the second one had so much Dean Cundey cinematography and a lot of things in the second one that make it really great too. But it had a lot of issues to it. And this one, rewatching it a second time, my issues really dwindled. Like I didn't care about these issues anymore. I was like, it makes total sense now. And the only issues I had were just little gripes. Like the Dr. Sartain thing. The new Loomis in this movie, which Laurie even says in this movie, is Loomis's new doctor after Dr. Loomis died in some time in this continuity. We don't know. I'm guessing 95, like Donald Pleasance did in real life. But Sartain is the new doctor, and he has this turn in the third act where you see like he's gone completely crazy, where he wants to see Michael in a real environment. Like, he has been so fascinated and fixated with Michael for years since Loomis has died, so he wants to see him go out and see how he reacts in society, even though Michael Myers is literally a killer. And Sartain kills one of the police too. And the first time I saw it, I was like, that seems like it's just kind of far-fetched. And I saw the hints the first time, but watching it a second time, I noticed more how cleverly they did put in, like for example, whenever the bus crashed, like he's in there, he's hiding Sartain, and then every time he mentions Michael, he mentions it in a foreboding way, like he is going to turn. And I just realized this time, second time around, like it's way more obvious, and it didn't feel like such a strange turn in the rewatching it again. So the Dr. Sartain thing, I think, didn't bother me as much. And it bothered me the first time that this movie was so cluttered. But honestly, like, watching it again, like, I loved all these characters, almost all of them. Like, the only character I thought was kind of annoying was the Oscar character. He wasn't in it long, but he was just kind of annoying. Which is a small gripe. It's nothing to, like, even say changes the movie at all in any way, shape, or form how I feel about it. I just thought that character was kind of annoying a little bit. But not as annoying as something like, say, Halloween Resurrection or anything. And the movie, watching it the first time, I thought it was so cluttered, but honestly, rewatching it again, I love these characters more, and I thought that they did a really great job. Even though you could have had more Laurie Strode and more of Karen and Allison, they did a good job of mixing all of these characters together, realizing in the second time I watched it. And I feel like the complaint about Laurie Strode not being in it as much is warranted, but in a way, since they're not connected brother and sister anymore, there's not as much of an emotional connection or an emotional, like, tragedy like H2O, where, like, it's her murderous brother that is going after her. And in this one, it's just this man who killed all her friends, almost killed her. She is just trying to murder this guy because 40 years ago it happened, and she has just been suffering through the whole time, through 40 years of this. And I don't know, it felt like it didn't need as much Laurie Strode in it in a weird way. Like, because she isn't as, like, she's important in the movie. Of course, she's obviously important, but I mean, like, in terms of, like, a theatricality of, like, her against Michael Myers, it's like they don't have a connection now. So it's just her trying to kill this man who killed all her friends, almost killed her. So it's not the same as, like, H2O or how she had like, their brother and sister. So it's not as much of a connection. So I feel like Laurie doesn't have to be the full spotlight in this whole movie because it's about all these characters who are there. Everybody's the same. There's not anybody who's related to him now, so it's not like they have to focus on that. So, to me, I felt like that it wasn't as much of a complaint the second time either, not seeing Lori as much. And I thought you got just enough of Karen and Allison. I like Karen a lot, honestly. I thought that this character, I feel like, is warranted in every way she speaks to Lori, like how she wants to not have anything to do with her because of her literally being, like, since she was born, she had been trained to fight, to shoot a gun, to do everything Lori wanted her to do to survive. And it works perfectly well in that great scene whenever Allison is talking to Lori for the first time at the football field at school. And there's this great scene where Allison is like she said how her mom's trying to put all this behind her. Why don't you? To Lori. And then she says to Lori, Allison says to Lori that that get over it. Like, it is like like my mom has gotten over it. Why don't you? And I thought that it really was cool seeing how Karen, like, she suffered through this and doesn't want to have anything to do with her mom. But that line, whenever Lori says to Allison at the football field, she says, if I made it to where my daughter hates me and resents me, but I gave her the ability to fight and actually make it through this world, then I don't, like, she doesn't feel bad. And I'm paraphrasing on what she said, but it was a really great line where it's like, it makes sense that Laurie Strode, no matter what, even to her daughter, like, she made her become a fighter. She wanted to do everything to protect her. But to Karen, it looks like she's treating her like Karen doesn't understand. Like, she didn't understand when she was a kid being raised to fight. And then as it went on, as an adult, she just had resentment towards her mother because nothing's ever happened. And even Allison says that in that scene at the football field where she's like, all this training and for what? Like, nothing's happened. So I love how Karen is interpreted in this movie. I think she's great. And I think that Allison is really great too as the 17-year-old character in this movie, where she's like Laurie Strode from the first one, and she likes Laurie way more than her mom does, than Karen. And there's great scenes, like I said, the scene at the football stadium where, like, Allison is talking to Laurie about, like, the whole issue, like with Karen and with Allison, and like how all this has caused nothing to happen, like you've been training for nothing. That makes this Allison character interesting, and I liked her a lot in this movie. And I thought that she's more of the, and I don't want to say this because it sounds like an insult to the actress and to the character, and it's not an insult to either, but this character feels more one note than Laurie and Karen because she is just there to encounter the mayhem, to encounter, like, the terror of Michael Myers coming back and not knowing what he's capable of. And she does great in this movie. I think she's actually really good. Annie Machek, or however you say her last name, she is really good in this movie, and I really loved her a lot. I thought that all three of these women did a great job of being a great group of, like, how Laurie experienced trauma, going down to Karen, then going down to Allison not understanding, and then being upset about everybody not telling her the truth or not treating her right. And again, with her boyfriend in the movie, whenever he dumps her, or whenever he kisses that other girl and Allison leaves, like, it just shows that this Allison character is going through, like, her family, her boyfriend, everybody's just treating her wrong, and she doesn't like it. And I like how it's so simple that this character's like this, and it just shows that all three of these characters, Laurie, Karen, and Allison, have such a great dynamic, and they're all different too. Like I said, Laurie suffered this tragedy. Karen suffered the mom dealing with this tragedy and resented her, and then Allison is upset with everybody not telling her anything and upset that everybody's treating her bad. So I love that. So these three characters were great, and I love them both. I love them all. I want to talk about the Laurie versus, like, how Laurie acts in this movie versus the first one, where it's a reverse of her and Michael Myers. And I'm going to go back to the football scene again at the school, where Allison is in the classroom, and it's literally it literally looks like the same classroom from the original movie. And the teacher's talking about fate, and that's PJ Souls, who played Linda in the first movie, who's talking about fate. Like, you don't see her face, but she's the teacher. That's a really cool connection. Man, sorry, I've got a cold. But there's a great great look where like Allison is sitting at the end of the last desk like Laurie is in the first movie, and she looks outside. She sees Laurie just staring at her outside like Michael did to Laurie in the first movie. That was the first cool reverse of Laurie and Michael. And then towards the end, where I'm gonna go all over with this plot because there's things that I can't like talk about something and then talk about another thing. I'm kind of doing it in a mixed way, so stay with me. But the next scene where Laurie is the same as Michael, like they do the reverse. At the end of the movie, whenever Michael throws Laurie out on the balcony, she falls down on the ground. Then Michael looks out again, and she's gone, and it plays the music. That's really awesome. Like, she copies Michael and does the same thing. And then, whenever Michael gets shot at the end before he gets thrown down into the hole in the ground, like under in the basement, it cuts behind Michael after he gets shot, and then it's Laurie there in the shadows, like Michael did when he pulled out at Laurie at the end in the first movie. That's really great that they do that with Laurie Strode, where they literally reverse it to where Laurie is the prey in Halloween at the end, and then in this one, Michael is the prey at the end of this one. That is really, really cool. All three of those moments, Laurie outside the window, whenever Allison's looking at her, having her fall off the balcony and then disappear like Michael, and then having her come out of the shadows like Michael in the first one. Those are three cool, awesome nods to reversing the same thing with Michael and Laurie being prey and the hunter. Like, that's really awesome. I love that a lot. And I love, too, the opening, like how it was the pumpkin. It did the pumpkin thing, except this time, as opposed to Halloween 2 and 1, the pumpkin, like, literally inflates again. Like, it's mushed and then it comes back up. That's really cool. I like that a whole lot. That was just a cool new one, because Halloween did it to where it was just a pumpkin. Halloween 2 did it to where the pumpkin opens up and it's a skull inside. And then Halloween 2018, it has the pumpkin inflating. That's really cool. And then Halloween 3 had the digital pumpkin too, but that's just cool whenever they do these pumpkin intros. They do pumpkin credits. Like, that's cool that they did another different one. I like this one a lot. So really loved the characters, really loved the reverse Laurie Michael moments, and I loved the pumpkin opening. And I also loved how the characters in this movie, I think, are really fun. Like, for example, in the first review I did, spoiler free, I talked about the babysitter Vicky and Julian, I think is the kid's name. That banter between Julian and Vicky is great. That is really hilarious. Like, that's one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie, and the humor in this is very apparent, and it's interesting because the Halloween movies have humorous moments, but this one is very humorous, but not in a way like Resurrection where it's stupid humorous. This one is actually good humor, at least for me. I thought it was really entertaining. The scene with Vicky the babysitter and Julian, and if it's not Julian, I apologize, but I think that's his name. Now, they both have this great banter where, like, Vicky's on the phone and she's talking about getting some Alakazam with Allison, and then the Julian kid's cutting his toenails and he just says, "Well, you don't have to say Alakazam. I know y'all are gonna be smoking weed up in here." And then she's like, "What do you mean? That's Alakazam. I just mean that like a magic trick." And he's like, "Don't lie to me. I know you're gonna be smoking weed in this house." And then I liked how she just bitches at him. She's like, "Yeah, I don't like you anymore. I've nannied like 10 different fucking kids and you're the worst. Like, you're the worst kid." And then he's like, I'll go tell my parents about you smoking weed." And she's like, "I'll tell your parents about your search history." And he's like, "You better not." Like, they're really genuinely great, these two characters. They are standout characters in this movie, and they are genuinely hilarious. And I loved how whenever Michael appears in the house, that is scary, but it's one of the moments where it's actually funny too, and it works in a way where it doesn't ruin it, where Julian is like he's like, "I saw somebody upstairs, the boogeyman's up in the house." And then Vicky goes up there and Dave doesn't, the boyfriend, and he's like, "Take Dave instead, come on." Like, and she's like, "No, I'll protect you." And then, of course, Michael gets in, grabs her, and kills her. But whenever Julian runs downstairs, he's like, "Get out of here, Dave, you're gonna get killed." Like, I don't know why that humor in this worked really well and really fun. That made such a fun scene. I love that scene between Vicky and Julian. That's such a great scene. Now, the other characters I think are totally fine. Like Sartain is good. The lead cop is good. Will Patton, like he's good, and these other characters are totally fine, but they're kind of just like Ray. I think has funny lines, like he's Karen's husband, where there is a line at the beginning where I just didn't expect it to go this route with the humor, and I'm totally fine with it. But at first I was like, whoa, wait, because it shows the first scene of Ray and Karen and Allison at breakfast. And Ray's sitting mouse traps with peanut butter on him. Peanut butter and marshmallows. And then he snaps one on accident while they're having a conversation. He goes, "Oh man, I got peanut butter on my penis." Like, it was such a joke that was so weird. But after I heard the joke, I was fine with it. But at first I was like, whoa, that's kind of over the top joke for this, but I felt like it blended in whenever you see the jokes with Vicky and Julian, and then these other characters. Like there's that one scene which is honestly kind of pointless with the cops where they're like talking about what they got for lunch, like their food they brought, which I thought was kind of pointless, but it was okay. It was kind of pointless though. There's a lot of humor in this where it works almost all the time for me. For the most part, it works. Even though that scene is pointless with the cops. But it reminded me of Halloween 5, but it was better than 5, of course. But I thought it was funny I thought the humor was actually pretty good. I liked the humor a lot. Now the two characters that are the podcasters, they're good. I think Aaron and Dana, like they're both good. They're both fine, but I don't know, like, I thought they would be in the movie longer, but I guess not. It was just, they were kind of out of it quick. But I guess that makes sense, they're not trying to make these, of course, the main characters. They're just there and get killed. But I thought that, like, Aaron would have at least lasted, because you see Dana die in the trailer. Or at least, you know she's going to die, probably, extremely she would die. Because it showed her, like, in the bathroom, and Michael was cornering her. So, I just thought they'd be in it more, but it's totally fine that they're not. And I think their point of the movie is just like they're doing something like, say, I haven't seen it, but like the Netflix show Making a Murder, where like it recaps like things about murderers, and I feel like these podcasters are probably doing something like that, where they interview people about murders of killers, and I feel like they got the big shot, wanted to do Michael Myers because of that thing that happened in '78. So. But they were killed quick, and it didn't bother me, but I was like, oh, okay, I just assumed that, like, Aaron would have lasted longer, because it didn't show him get killed in the trailer, but I don't know. I thought they were totally fine. I'm trying to think of anything else before the ending. I'll talk about the kills. The kills are pretty good. I like the kills a lot. I liked how, it's more akin to the first one in a lot of ways, but in a couple moments it's not. Like, and that's totally fine, because they're having their cake and eating it too. Like I said in the spoiler-free review, where like they're showing violence, but they're also not showing violence, because the original did not show violence. It was up to the imagination more than showing actual visceral violence, and that's totally fine. The original holds up incredibly well because of that. This one has a lot of moments where it does that, and it does it great. And whenever it shows actual violence, it's really good too. Like, for example, that great, like, couple-minute scene of Michael walking into all these houses and murdering all these people. He walks into the first house, which looks like it's like Halloween 2, where he walks into this house, the woman's making a sandwich. You see off-screen, she walks around, and Michael gets a hammer, walks in, and bashes her. You don't see it, but then you just see Michael walk out of the room, and it zooms and shows her already killed. And then he goes into another room, or another house, where this woman is talking on the phone, and then she puts up the blinds. And then Michael comes in, grabs her by the hair, and just impales her through the throat. Like, and you see the knife, like, through the throat, and it's really good. It's you know what I mean? It's like they're doing some scenes showing violence, some scenes showing not, which I'm totally fine with both ways. I think the kills are great in this movie. The violence is very brutal, very vicious. And I really enjoyed how it isn't as crazy as like Rob Zombie's movies, but I think that's totally fine, because those movies are their own thing. They're trying to be more brutally realistic, but then sometimes cartoony, the Rob Zombie ones. And I want to go back to Laurie Strode again. Laurie Strode, to me, in this movie, I think she's really fantastic, and she does a thing like H2O, where like it is a certain amount of time after the first one, where she is tortured and has been traumatized, and she has a kid, this time another kid, a third kid in the continuity, Karen, and she's got a granddaughter, and she is suffering through this trauma. But I think they did it better in a lot of ways than H2O. And H2O is totally fine, where like she is this alcoholic who is running. She's running away from Michael the whole movie until the end. In this one, she's not running. She is just there at Haddonfield waiting for him, waiting to murder him, waiting to finally be free of this torture that she has had for years and years, 40 years in this version. And I think she's so great. And I think that in this version, like, I felt like it was so great having her having her the hunter instead of the prey, to kill Michael. And I thought that scene at the beginning with the podcasters and her is fantastic, and it actually completely gives everything you need to know about this character in this version, since there's so many fucking timelines. But in this version, there's that first scene with her and the podcasters. They go into her barred up house, like, that has got all these gates and fences and lights, everything that she is doing to protect herself in case he comes back. The reporters go and talk to her, and these reporters are dicks at first, like, time they talk to Laurie Strode. They go up to her, and are recording this, by the way, and say, like, "We want to know more about your story with Michael Myers." And then she just looks at them and says, "What more is there to tell? Like, there's nothing else to tell. No new insights." And Jamie Lee Curtis is incredible in this scene and in all the scenes, but she's incredible in this scene in particular. She's like, "There's no insights. There's nothing more about this story that we need to know." And in this continuity, yeah, because it's just the first movie. She just escaped this killer, and it really is great in that scene where Dana just straight up says to her, like, "So yeah, you've had all these bad marriages and you have no good relationship with your kids." And she's like, and Laurie just says, "Yeah, I'm twice divorced and I'm a basket case." And then Dana says about, like, your rocky relationship with your daughter and your granddaughter. And then Laurie, I love how it's warranted how bitchy she is to say this, but Laurie just says back, "Yeah, but I know you already knew that." Because these reporters just wanted her to say that. They wanted her to say this for, like, the podcast for people listening, but I'm like, you guys are pieces of shit that you're just going up to this person who has suffered 40 years of trauma, has no good relationship with her daughter, and in some cases her granddaughter, and they already knew that, but then Laurie was smart and told her immediately, "Yeah, I already knew you knew that." That's just shitty. That's horrible. And I liked how it made you feel so much sympathy for Laurie, though. Like, you really did in that moment, because those characters were so horrible saying that to her. Like, "Oh, yeah, you have a rocky relationship with your daughter and granddaughter, and you're divorced twice." Like, it's just so horrible that they say that straight up to her face, just to get people to listen for the podcast. So it was a great scene with Laurie in that scene. And the scene where Michael is being transferred is fantastic, where she's just in the car, she starts drinking a little bit really quickly, just breathes really hard, sees the bus, starts losing it, starts crying, starts hallucinating and screaming. Like, that's a fantastic scene. I love that scene. And Jamie Lee Curtis said that's, I think, her last scene, and it actually works incredibly well, because she felt so much at the end of this filming that it just, emotionally, she had such a great performance in that scene alone. So I loved her in this movie, and I want to talk about the ending now. The ending, I think, is the only other thing I think I need to talk about now, from what I remember. Now, the ending, I love the ending. The ending was awesome as hell. I loved how it's just, Ray's been dead, everybody else is dead, and it's just Laurie and Karen in the house. Karen is underground, Laurie's upstairs. Allison comes home, running to the woods, and we've got this great moment with Karen where Karen, you would have thought that Allison like is down there with her, and you would have thought that Karen is too scared to shoot Michael. Like, Michael's in the house, he breaks off the table that covers the door underground. He breaks it off literally. You don't see him up there. She's crying. She's got the gun. She just says, "Mom, I can't do it. I can't do it. Please, Mom, I can't do it." She cries and hallucinates, Karen. And then Michael appears up there, and then she just says, "Gotcha," and then she shoots Michael straight up. And Laurie also shot off his two of his fingers earlier, Michael, which is awesome as well. And then Laurie appears out of the shadows and says, "Happy Halloween, Michael." Starts stabbing him, shooting him. She throws him down there. And then Allison and Karen run back up, and then Karen gets grabbed by Michael, and then Allison stabs Michael a couple times, like in the shoulder and in the hand, and like he falls down. And then Laurie has it to where she has rigged this to where if they make, I know they're going to make a sequel. I know they're going to. They always do. But how the fuck are you going to explain? And I guess you can explain, but still, this is a great, perfect ending if you don't want to do any more sequels. But to the end, Karen, Allison, and Laurie are now upstairs. Michael is thrown down there. Laurie pulls a lever that literally creates bars in that thing downstairs. So, like, Michael cannot escape. It is a cage. Michael is caged in there. There's no windows down there. He is literally trapped for good. And then Laurie has this thing rigged too where gas starts going all around underground, like through all these little pipes. And then she throws a flare down at him. All three of them watch as Laurie drops a flare down into the cage, and Michael just sits there while everything engulfs around him and starts burning. And then the house starts burning up. Then all three of them escape. They get into this truck from this person who's driving by. And it's funny because they have the thing where it's like, oh, might not be there, because you cut back after you see Michael being engulfed, and then you see Michael's not there. But how the fuck are you going to explain that he's not there in the next movie? Maybe there's a window I didn't see, but I don't think that there were any windows. I feel like there was literally no way for Michael to escape. Like, there's no way for him to get out of here. He is human, and Laurie Strode straight up said that in that interview with the two podcasters at the beginning of the movie. Like, he is a human. We need to remember that. So how the fuck is he going to survive that? I hope they do not. I mean, I will see a sequel regardless, but I wish that we would have just stopped it here, because this is a fine end to the film, to the series. This is fine. This is a great ending. But if we get another one, and if Jamie Lee Curtis is back, I don't know if I can be super mad, but I'm like, I don't want them to do another one. Just have it end here. This would be totally fine. And I would have said do a prequel, but you can't, because they made it to where 40 years you've been trapped in that prison. What else can they do? Or in Smith's Grove. They can't do anything else. So, and then it ends with them just, like, all three of them holding each other, reconciling, like, while in the truck. And then it cuts down to Allison holding that knife. And I wonder if Allison, like, I don't know if this character will ever do this, but I wonder if she goes crazy later, because the movie with Sartain and her watching Sartain kill and having her, or maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe I'm just thinking that she just used the idea of Michael killing to kill, or to stop him, like, at the end. But, like, I don't know if she might go crazy, and that's alludes to, like, Halloween 4, if, like, they do ever do that. But I don't think they're going to. But it just made me think that this character might become unhinged, Allison, a little bit, from clues throughout the movie. But I also need to mention a couple references to the other movies before I finish this. I loved how they literally almost completely copied, in a great way, the Halloween 4 gas station, and the bathroom, which is not completely the same, but it's like the bathroom scene in H2O, except this time, instead of Claudia and her daughter living in H2O, Dana dies and Aaron dies in the bathroom scene. But I loved how they connected Halloween 4 and H2O right together, where they just did it to where Michael kills a mechanic, like he did in the fourth one, and he takes the suit. In this one he does it too. And then they do go to H2O, where, like, they both die in the bathroom. And that's really cool how they connect those two, because those two scenes are pretty good for in the Halloween franchise, and it's cool that they alluded to those and brought those back. And I like seeing the trick-or-treaters wearing the silver shamrock outfits. That's pretty cool. And the cop scene, which was kind of pointless, was like Halloween 5, but better. And there's a line where like one guy is like, "What are we gonna do? Ban Halloween?" Which I think was a ripping, like making fun of like Halloween 6, where it's like they banned it for 5 years since after the events of Halloween 5. And then they had Halloween 2 connections too, where Michael walks into that house with the woman with making the sandwich, and he hammers her. He doesn't kill the woman in Halloween 2, Mrs. Elrod, but like he goes in and grabs a knife, and he does that too in this scene in this movie. So that's just really cool. And there's a scene where Vicky is getting killed, and it shows, whenever she's stabbed, it shows Michael's mask, and it looks different. It looks like Halloween 2, where it's more stretched, because Dick Warlock had a bigger face than Nick Castle did, or everybody else who played Michael Myers in the first one. So they had an allusion to that in one shot. That was really cool. I love all those little references. And then they also, at the gas station, they had a van, which looked like the van from Halloween 4, but it said Resurrection Church on it. So they had a Resurrection reference. That's funny that they even had one reference to Resurrection in it. I would have lost it if they had, like, Busta Rhymes come into this movie, like, for a brief second, maybe on TV or anything. That would have been funny. And I also thought that would have been funny if, like, they put Paul Rudd in, like, one scene. I know he wouldn't come back because he doesn't like that he was in 6, whatever. But I think that would be hilarious if we just saw a cameo from him as Tommy Doyle in this movie. That would have been awesome. Oh, and also, in Karen's childhood room, there are a lot of references to the other movies. There's literally a house, a little wood house that's sitting in that room, which is Michael Myers' childhood house. That's really cool. And there was also the picture of, I forgot what this famous guy's name is, but there is a illustrated art picture of, in Halloween 1, when Laurie is in her room, and there's that picture on the wall. It's James something. I forgot what his name is. He's a famous person. But there's that picture in Karen's room, and then the sombrero is in the room too, which in Halloween 1 there's a sombrero too. Which is funny because, like, in Halloween Resurrection, they have Laurie in the institution, and she's got the Raggedy Ann doll, like in the first movie. And in this one, they've got the sombrero and the picture of that famous guy in Karen's room. I just think that's cool that every one of these movies have little tidbits to Laurie Strode, like, from her house, like where she lived at in the first movie. That's pretty cool. And the ending of this is not the same as Halloween 2, but Michael Myers is engulfed in fire, if he really is. Because you don't see him, the shot of him is gone whenever he's there. But I love those references. I love how this has so many little references to every film. I'm trying to think if there's any that they didn't reference, because they referenced Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Halloween 4, 5, 6... I don't know. Is there anything overt that they reference from 6? I guess the not banning Halloween line, and then H2O, of course, the bathroom, and then Resurrection. They referenced Resurrection Church, and then Rob Zombie's Halloween. I don't know if they really referenced it, but like that institution where Michael was at with the checkerboards, like all those people that were crazy. I don't know. I could see a scene like that being in the Rob Zombie movies. So I don't know, I guess there's a reference to every one of them, whether it's big or small. That's really cool. And again, just thank you, David Gordon Green, for doing that, giving all these references to every film, even though they're not canon. That's really, in this film, they're not canon. That's really cool, and I love that authenticity and connection and support, even if people like or dislike these movies, the sequels. So again, I love this movie. I love talking about it. I love talking about spoilers. There were so many things to talk about, but I think I talked for like 40 minutes or so damn, but this was really good. I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I'm going to talk about it again with Derek from Derek's Horror Corner. I think this Friday we're going to do like a live stream about Halloween 2018 and why it's not as bad as people are saying it is, because people are shitting on it again like normal. So check that out. So it's me and him, and maybe, I don't know if anybody else is joining, but it's at least me and him. So check that one out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out my regular review. I've reviewed all the other movies. Check everything out I've got. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.